but how do we support them all? And how do we provide value is kind of that central question. We want to make sure that by bringing these groups on, we're actually providing a good value to them with the platform that we're offering.
Hello, and welcome to Behind the Screens, IT at ND, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the IT solutions consultants at the University of Notre Dame.
Here, we explore the challenges they face, the innovative solutions they provide, and tips and tricks that can help you make the most out of your technology. I'm Deanna, IT support technician with the service desk.
And I'm Scooter, Director of Information Technology for the College of Arts and Letters. We're thrilled to have you with us today. Our guests today are Tracy Weber, Assistant VP of Enterprise Solutions and Delivery, and Jami Radcliffe, Enterprise CRM Administrator, both with the OIT. And we are here to talk about Enterprise CM. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome, Jami.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we dive into all the questions, could each of you just tell us a little bit about your current role, the journey that brought you here? So like, how long have you been with the university? When did you move into your current role? Things like that. Jami, why don't we start with you?
Oh, okay. I am the Enterprise CRM Administrator for the university. I have been with the university since December of 2021, but just actually moved underneath the OIT umbrella as of July 1st. So I'm pretty new in my department, but same role that I've been serving for the university since I started in December 2021. I got my Salesforce Administrator certification in April of 2018, and I've been a Salesforce Administrator ever since. When I came to the university, I was hired on as the Enterprise CRM Administrator to support our enterprise org called CRM&D, and I have been supporting it ever since. Over the last couple of years, though, I have been working on the Ascend project within development, which is their new Salesforce environment. And with my move over to OIT in July, I am now refocused solely on our enterprise org again.
Well, we're glad you're here. Hey, Tracy, why don't you tell us about a little of your story, too?
Yes, I am totally thrilled Jami is here with me, and I am not by myself talking about Enterprise CRM because she is definitely the expert. I've been with the OIT for 22 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. I was hired as an application developer, and I was hired around the time we were implementing Banner and trying to get off that big mainframe in our data center. And started out as a programmer and enjoyed that and moved into some technical leadership roles. And I've just had a really nice career path in the OIT. After that, I did some time in our project management office, leading large projects, and then eventually moved into people management roles. And I've had the opportunity to lead a number of teams across the OIT. And then about 7 years ago, I moved into a senior leadership position. And since I've been in senior leadership team, I have my organization has changed quite a bit over that time, and which has been a great way to learn different parts of OIT, but also work on that next exciting challenge. And Enterprise CRM is definitely falling into that category of next exciting challenge. And completely thrilled to be working with Jami and then some others that we've pulled in to help out with that as well, as we sort of move forward in this next phase of CRM at Notre Dame.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, Jami, let me start by asking you a couple of basic questions. Let's make sure our audience is all on the same page here. So, can you tell us what is a CRM? And we haven't spelled it out yet. So, what's the acronym stand for, and then what is it?
Yeah, so a CRM stands for Contact Relationship Management, or in our turn for the university, Constituent Relationship Management. So essentially, at its core, a CRM is a platform that can be used to manage relationships with contacts and track communications with those contacts. There are many different CRMs that are on the market, but Notre Dame has chosen Salesforce as our platform that we use both in CRM&D and Ascend, which we kind of touched on a little bit already, and we'll probably touch on again a little bit later in our conversation. But CRM&D is Notre Dame's enterprise CRM environment that we have available for different groups across campus. So like I said, for the university, really what a CRM allows us to do is manage relationships with the various constituencies that we communicate with. So whether those are alumni of the university or current students, parents of those students, friends who have given to the university, other people at organizations that we work closely with. It really just facilitates collaboration across campus and will hopefully improve the experience for those constituents as we communicate with them in our various departments across campus.
So, Jamie, can you tell us, or Tracy, can you tell us about who uses a CRM and what exactly they use it for? So we know was it contact, relationship management part, but how does that all come together?
Yeah, so when it comes to CRMs, like I said, when it comes to contact relationship management, really businesses have kind of led the charge in this area of technology. But really, it has been moving into the higher ed space over a number of years. A lot of different institutions and universities have really started taking advantage of Salesforce and its different offerings that it has to start improving those constituent relationships that they're working on fostering. So specifically at Notre Dame, we actually have 13 different user groups that we're currently supporting with our enterprise CRM. And within those groups, all of them have varying needs. So some of them, it's really just basic constituent relationship tracking, whether that's, hey, I want to know what their current address is so I can send them a Christmas card, or I need to know what their email address is so that they can be a part of our newsletter. And then we also range all the way up to supporting full business processes within the CRM. So we've even supported a use case for project management and resource allocation for a group on campus so that they could understand if they have the capacity to take on additional work as they work with local industry partners in the area to grow our impact on the region that we're in. So really kind of pushing into organization relationship management as well as constituents. So it's kind of a new frontier for us. We've got a lot of different groups that are really starting to look at that front of things as well. So the group that I mentioned is Industry Labs, but we also have Mendoza College of Business is starting to track more relationships with organizations. We've also got the Wilson Sheehan Lab for Economic Opportunities that we just onboarded into the system that works primarily with organizations that are focused on research in the poverty space. So it's really a very flexible solution that we are able to offer our campus partners. So it looks a little bit different for each group, but we're hoping that that shared platform is something that will allow our different user groups to really benefit from this collection of data that everyone is able to contribute to.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a pretty efficient and flexible tool. And so I'm very far removed from CRM and all of that entails. What do you think the perspective from a user like me would be? And what can I expect by using a tool like this?
So like I said, kind of an endlessly flexible platform that we're working from, supports just such a wide array of use cases. So it will look a little bit different group to group, but really like at its core, CRM should offer detailed constituent records with information like biographic and demographic details. The big one for us is really the ability to track interactions and engagements. So understanding who on campus is talking to a constituent, because very often we have multiple groups that are talking to the same person. We want to understand how they're talking to that constituent, how often they're talking to that constituent, what relationships they're really fostering so that we can kind of leverage those relationships to maybe make inroads in different areas on campus as well. So one of the big things that we offer within the platform as well is a way to visualize how the relationship is progressing. So we actually have what's called a timeline component so people can see the different points of contact that we've had with constituents over the years and see kind of how those relationship building touch points have culminated in some major milestones. So obviously in development, they're focused on fundraising, all of these conversations that we might have, do they end up with a gift or a pledge of a gift to the university? With our different groups, like I said, the Lab for Economic Opportunities, they're working toward launching a research project with these organizations, but there's a lot of work that goes into that before they even get to that point. So this allows them to see those various touch points that are happening along the way and what the end result of those communications are. So like I said, it goes for both constituents and organizations that we're working with. But then also on top of that, there's other details that people want to track. What are some of the interests of those constituents that they're working with? What are some tips that they can have, take advantage of to engage with that constituent? So like I said, that shared environment just really allows us to see who's talking to who, and then really the end goal will be to form strategies of how we can leverage the existing relationships that we have across campus to deepen those connections in different areas.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like you're a CRM administrator, the way you say all that.
Been doing it for a long time.
How does the Enterprise CRM initiative tie into our broader organizational strategy and goals?
Yes, and enterprise CRM is so aligned with our strategy. And to the extent that when I'm talking to our campus partners about enterprise CRM, I literally have a quote from our strategic framework. And I have a slide that I show that I think just perfectly illustrates how well aligned this is. And so I'll read some excerpts from the university strategic framework. So contemporary research universities are weakened by barriers erected between units. And an example of a barrier is every department maintaining their own set of contacts and constituent records and knowing what's going on with constituents. And just imagine all of the extra interactions needed to know what each other is doing, when we share those constituents. And so the next part of the strategic framework that I like to quote is, becoming the Notre Dame the world needs will require the university to become better at thinking as an institution. And, that's a big impact. We're talking and interacting with the world. So imagine if we had a platform that helped, all the people at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a big place. We have a lot of people interacting with the world. And imagine if we had a shared set of data, a shared set of processes where everybody just sort of can easily keep in touch with what's going on with a given constituent. And you can just see how that can be really impactful to research collaboration, like Jami mentioned, of course, development, but also government relations. That's a really important topic. Regional development. There's a lot of different parties and departments at the university interacting with people all over the world right now. And if we just had an easy way for departments to know who's talking to who and what are the key topics and what are the good things to know, we could just, I think, generate a lot of interesting opportunities that'll just completely enhance and amplify the impact that Notre Dame can have on the world.
Wonderful. And Tracy, I think you just teed me up for the next question. What I want to ask is why is now the right time for Notre Dame to move towards an enterprise CRM?
Yeah, so development office has been a great champion and advocate for CRM. This is their bread and butter, right? And they are so good at what they do. And so they have the data and the processes that really support that. So they have been, the early champions of enterprise CRM and really been leading in this and have taken on that support even for the broader university. But recently, development moved to their own. It's a Salesforce-based platform, which is our enterprise CRM, but it is a different platform. And so it was just a good time for us to think about centralizing that support. As Jami mentioned, we have a number of campus departments already using the enterprise CRM in an enterprise way. And we know, just talking to people and the requests that we get every week, that there is a lot of campus demand out there. So it's really timely that this is back in the OIT and centralized, and that we're really in a place where we can position it to scale and meet even more of the campus demand.
Yeah, well, we know there's a lot of campus demand for it too. We know that's coming. So Jami, talk to me. So Tracy's talking about how we're centralizing this and how we have so many opportunities with that centralization. What problems or inefficiencies are we solving by doing this in a centralized way?
The greatest problem or inefficiency that we're really hoping to solve by making this a true enterprise solution to offer to campus is just that core need for a unified communication hub to understand, like I said, who is talking to who on campus. I can guarantee that some of these spreadsheets that we have from campus partners have the same contacts that are available in CRM&D or available on other people's, contact lists. So if it's not living on your spreadsheet, you're not aware of it. And there's a lot of opportunity to leverage that information. No clarity on who we are talking to across campus, in addition to how we're communicating with them. What are we communicating with them about? Like Tracy said, our development team is unrivaled. They're just kind of top of the class, amazing work that they do. We also want to be kind of mindful of what they're doing as well and what relationships they're working on fostering, so we're not stepping on toes. So it's just kind of a way for us to see that full picture view of our relationships with our constituents, how we're talking to them, making sure we're communicating with them at the right time in the right way, and also that we're not like inundating them with emails, because every group kind of manages their own marketing, internally. We don't have like a really, centralized marketing hub as well. So that's one of the ways that we want to kind of be mindful of when it's best to communicate with our constituents and how often.
When you start talking about the existence of spreadsheets or shadow systems or all these other things, my heart just like sped up immediately because because data quality just jumps to mind. When you talk about a constituent appearing on that spreadsheet and that one and the other, the first things that ran through my mind, I'll bet their name is spelled the same way every place. I'll bet their address is up to date every place. I'll bet their phone numbers I'll bet nobody's fat fingered a birth date anywhere. And yeah, my heart just, I'm palpitations about that. It's so the idea of having that one place that we can count on as being a source of truth, brings a lot of advantage to us.
100%.
And those advantages benefit our constituents too, because if we have, 3 different emails for the same person, that's not a great experience to get the same email, 3 different ways. And so we can, that can just, our being really organized about the data can really feel better to the constituents we're interacting with as well.
So let's talk a little bit about building this alignment and bridging these gaps. Tracy, a lot of departments are very eager for the CRM. How have you worked to keep them engaged and aligned during the planning phase?
Right. And I am so excited about the energy and interest. I am also a little scared because that's a lot of demand and we want to, meet everybody's needs, but we have a very small and mighty team. And so we're really going to have to be focused on those highest impact, highest value things initially so that we can really be in a position to scale. But we have, the energy has been really noticeable. We had a mini conference a couple years ago on the topic of CRM, and we just have great examples of our campus partners seeing real value from, those that are already on the platform, and then, really generating interest among others that are having those data struggles, process struggles that would really be solved by a CRM solution. We've tried to keep people up to date with what's going on. We send an update, obviously, when Jami moved into the OIT, and we're super excited about this next phase. But we are asking people to practice patience as well. We're going to need a little time to get organized and, really figure out how to scale this thing more broadly. So, that's part of the outreach here today is really, we want this excitement, but we also are needing to balance that right now with a little bit of patience as we get ramped up.
Yeah. It does definitely sound like there's a lot on your plate and a lot of moving parts, especially with so many different departments and meeting needs. What are the biggest concerns that you've heard from stakeholders, and how are you addressing them?
We actually just went through with this move. We did a road mapping session last week so that we could kind of start planning what does the next couple of years look like. What do we want to focus on to really get us in a good spot to manage this on campus? And we did a couple of listening sessions with some of our user groups ahead of that session, just so that we could kind of get more updated feedback from them. how is the system helping you currently? What's missing? What do we need to be focusing on or have on our radar for the next couple of years? So when it comes to like our current user groups, a lot of the big concerns that we've heard really were just two major ones. So lack of enhancements and improvements over the years. One thing that kind of always happens with any implementation is you do the initial implementation and you build it to what the team currently needs at that point. But as they sit in the system and they see what it's capable of, or what other stuff is living outside of the system, they see the benefit in bringing it all into that one platform. So there's always that, hey, we want to take this to the next step. What are some of those other things that we can be doing on the platform? And then on top of that, like we've mentioned a little bit, is just access to data. So they recognize that the data that we have in CRM&D might be a little bit more stale right now. So we've been putting together plans of how we can refresh the data, and then hopefully at some point set up a connection between the systems so that we can all be working from the same data sets. We think that will be absolutely revolutionary for the platform. So those are kind of some of the big concerns that we've heard both within the current user groups, but also the groups that have really been kind of beating down our doors to get on the platform.
And so my next question is, how, given that there are so many groups, as we've mentioned, and so many varying needs, how will you ensure that the system meets those diverse needs?
So this was honestly a big focus of that roadmap session that we held last week, and kind of the center of our planning discussions that we've been having is really just focusing on what can we do to support these different use cases that we have across campus, because they're all valid. They all have exhibited a need for a CRM, and we've got a platform that can support them. But how do we support them all, and how do we provide value is kind of that central question. We want to make sure that by bringing these groups on, we're actually providing a good value to them with the platform that we're offering. And then on top of that, how do we do it as quickly as possible? Because like we've said over the last couple of years, we've had to kind of tell people, we might eventually be able to bring you on the platform, but please continue being patient. It's obviously a difficult message to get to users, to give that to them, and then for them to receive, because we're saying we recognize that you have a need, but we don't have a solution at this point quite yet.
I think Tracy has written a form letter with my name on it for every time I bring a new customer to her. It says,
yeah,
yes, I know. We'll get there.
We've got quite the running list. So we've been looking at different ways that we could work on scaling the system as quickly as possible. So we kind of settled on an idea that we're still fleshing out a little bit, so it might look a little bit different once we actually start offering it, is the idea of kind of breaking things into buckets of what we're kind of temporarily calling CRM in a box. Versus something that's more of like a highly configured solution that will support a specific business process for a group. So CRM in a box, we're looking at as an option for us to really just say, hey, you need constituent relationship management. We already have that functionality in the system. So let's bring your data into the system. Let's figure out what you need to have access to. If we need to support a couple of additional fields or data points that you want to be able to track, that's an easy lift for us to be able to do. So we're looking at what we can do to support those groups that might have that more basic need, and looking at how many of those we can engage with at a given time or within a year to start onboarding these groups much more quickly. But then we do also have some groups that want to bring in a full business process. So this is kind of where, the Lab for Economic Opportunities, LEO, that's kind of where their business use case went, was supporting business processes and folding in multiple groups within their department so that they are all working from the same system and really able to make an impact, in the work that they're doing. So we're kind of putting some plans together about, okay, well, if we can do one major implementation a year with the business process, how many CRM in a box offerings can we offer and put out there for different groups? And then how do we prioritize those as well? How do we decide who is the most important to bring on at any given time? So lots of planning that we're doing with that, but we're working on really kind of fleshing that idea out a little bit more so that we can start moving with that and start getting groups on as quickly as possible. Another part of what we're doing with that is we are working through the process of identifying potential partners that we could work with so that we could either speed up the timelines where possible, because like we said, we recognize groups wanted to be on a CRM yesterday. We've heard that from so many groups as we're having these discussions. So I wanted to be on a CRM like yesterday or last year. So we're looking at what we can do to kind of speed up timelines where we can, but then also identify partners that can really act as guides for us to make sure that we're building the solution in the best way possible to support that future growth that we're hoping to support and make it as scalable as possible. And also really at the end of the day, the core of what we do with the enterprise org is we really just want to act as strategic partners for our groups across campus. So what that means is we recognize that we might not be able to fit every single need these groups want, but we will work our hardest to make sure that we find the right solution possible to address those needs that might not fit underneath our umbrella. And that's, I think, one of the greatest things about the move of CRM to OIT is we have obviously such a wealth of resources in OIT, such a great knowledge base. Everyone knows different tools that we could be leveraging, that it's like, okay, well, CRM might not be the right fit for this specific part of your process, but how can we meet your need in a different way and point you in that direction? So definitely a lot of work, a lot of balancing, where do we have our kind of bread and butter, but then also work to support groups that might have, a little bit more of an in-depth need.
So we've talked a little bit about some of the, technical hurdles, but really, what's it going to take for our organization to really handle this culturally? You alluded to some of the concerns about data sharing and some other things. Maybe you can flesh that out for me a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology obviously can be a game changer for any group, but if you don't have kind of the cultural shift and that cultural mindset in place before you do the technology, it's really not going to go anywhere. So one of the things that we've heard a lot from our different groups is access to data, but also concerns about data sharing. At Notre Dame, obviously, we take great pride in the relationships that we build with our constituents across campus. And, there's obviously a lot of pride in the strength of relationships that we've been able to build. Like, that's really just, when I think of Notre Dame, like, that's what I think of. Like, that is just we're so good at that. And obviously what comes along with that is kind of some guarding that happens when it gets to that point, because you want to be really mindful of the relationship that you've built. You want to make sure that we're treating people the right way, that we maintain that relationship. So it's just kind of naturally become guarded of that, and try to make sure that everyone else is kind of maintaining that same standard as they're working with the people that you're working with. And then along with that kind of comes concerns about sharing your data and what you're gathering from your constituents with other groups across campus, and even, like I said, within your own units. Some groups don't want to share it with people in another unit within their department. They want to just kind of be a little bit more guarded of it and say, these are mine, stay away, all that fun stuff. But really what we need to start doing, I think, for this to really be a good, true enterprise solution across campus for us is kind of overhaul or take a new look at about how we treat data. Like I said, both at the university level, but also within our units and our departments. I think it's going to require a shift of kind of looking at data more as a university asset rather than a personal asset within those departments or with a certain person working with that constituent. So a willingness to share is going to be like absolutely required for us to really make this as successful as we hope for it to be. So that will kind of require, groups that are wanting a seat at the table, wanting to join CRM, take advantage of the data that's in CRM that other groups are putting into CRM. They're going to have to kind of bring their data to the table as well, and make sure that they're contributing, because that's really how we start advancing this at the university level. But at the end of the day, we also do recognize that, we have to have strict data governance guidelines in place. We have very high standards when it comes to how we manage data at the university level. So we will always be mindful of that. And the great thing is the platform that we're using allows us to carefully manage access to that sort of sensitive data, and allows us to build some sensible guardrails in place, and put those in place so that the right data is being shared with the right people. But in general, we have to kind of get over the idea of data being owned by a specific group. It's university data. So that's going to be a big shift culturally, I think, for us across campus. But hopefully once we start working towards that idea, we'll really start seeing the success that we're hoping to have.
So how would you sell this idea to those people that are very hesitant about sharing and are kind of guarding their
Yeah,
data?
that's always the 100, million-dollar question, right? Like I said, it's really kind of at the point, I don't want to say pay to play, but if you want access to what everyone else is doing and you want to see these data points, you have to also be willing to kind of let some of that go, and bring that to the table. And I think if we can really prove the value of the system that we're trying to put in place, it will actually make people naturally more willing to share that willingly. So it's definitely a fine balance. It's a tightrope to walk a little bit, but I think if we can really just prove the inherent value of our platform, people will start buying into that and having that shift, behind the scenes.
Once this is live in the foreseeable future, what will success look like for the initiative?
Yeah, so sort of two parts to this answer. First, as a provider of enterprise solutions, I will be really happy when I can answer, yes, we have a solution for you. And it's a timeline that's going to feel great to everyone, where we can onboard our campus partners that are interested, and we can say, here's our solution, here's our trusted implementation partners, here's the stable, secure service that protects this data and provides a really nice constituent experience, for all of our constituents. So that will be the dream, and that is definitely attainable. I think, with Jami and our great teammates, we've had Allison Malecki and Jim Budd really engaged in this and helping as well. And then, of course, Dean Erdzen, who's been a leader at the university in the space of enterprise CRM for many years. So we have a great team, and I really feel like we can get to that. Big picture, I think success, when we can use this, this common platform to really generate those partnerships, those collaborations that aren't on anyone's radar right now. That's the value proposition, where this platform completely supports the university's mission. When we identify a new research partner and we get a big grant and then we have the breakthrough, that's the big outcome that I think this solution can enable.
Yeah. And what are some of the first impacts that departments should expect to see when this whole thing goes live?
Obviously, the kind of base platform is there. It's live. It's ready to go for our existing user groups. So again, I'll break it into different buckets. Our existing user groups, are the impacts that they'll see, is kind of just a renewed focus on the platform, about the core offering that we are making available to them. How can we enhance the system to make it just better support their needs and the needs that we have across campus? And to Tracy's point, how can we use the platform to support the university's mission in a much deeper way than it's currently being used? One of the things that Salesforce does is every 3 times a year they have major releases that they do, updates that are happening to the core platform that we haven't really been able to take advantage of over the last few years. So there's a lot of new functionality that might be available that we think we can leverage, and having this ability to kind of refocus 100% of my time back on CRM Indy rather than just the 25% will help a lot. But also, to Tracy's point, we have some really good partners that we've been able to work with within OIT. Allison on the project management side, and Jim just has such great knowledge about platforms and integrations and just a random wealth of knowledge about how can we make these improvements in the system. So that's really kind of really what we're going to be focusing on for our existing user groups is improving the existing platform, just taking a fresh look at everything that's in there so that we can be better supporting our user groups that are in there, and making sure that the solution that we are offering is the right solution, is the best solution that we can put out there for them, and then also the groups that are helping to onboard into the system. So they're kind of our other bucket is we're hoping that we have more capacity to onboard new groups, start working through that list of campus partners that have expressed interest in joining the platform, where we haven't been able to do that over the last few years, and bringing those new groups into the fold. But one of the other big things that we're looking to offer is a lot more guidance on where they can get started. So while we have this list of groups that want to join the platform, what can the ones that are waiting be doing to get themselves ready for the platform, and kind of kickstart that process so that it goes that much more quickly when we are ready to work with them?
Well, this sounds great. I can't tell you how excited some of my folks are going to be eventually here.
Good.
So Tracy, from a strategic level, what are some of the milestones that you're going to be most focused on in the next 12 months? What improvements should we expect to see?
Yeah, Jami mentioned we had a retreat recently. We did sort of a deep dive of like in the big spectrum of everything we could do if we had all the time in the world, what would we do? And of course, we've had to narrow that a little bit. So we've defined a few categories of work that we feel like is most important to spend time on in the next year. And a lot of it with any enterprise system, there's just a certain amount of required maintenance that you have to do to make sure you're providing a secure and stable service. And so there's some of that we've got to catch up on, just making sure our data is in great shape, our access permissions are all exactly what we need them to be able to scale this in a nice, secure way. So definitely some preventive maintenance type work we need to do. There's also a number of things that we know are not quite ideal if we want to skip for when we want to scale this more broadly. And if we just spend a little time now up front of just smoothing those out, like how can we make it just so easy to get a constituent record in the system, then obviously that's going to make it go better for everyone. So there's a handful of things that we want to focus on that are just foundational, make it an easier to use system so that it improves the experience as we start to scale. And then there's a few things out there we like to do that are sort of, I call them delighters, where if we could do this, it's going to be so exciting to people, and it'd be pretty cool if we could do it. So I don't want to set any expectations on what those might be, but one of them might be related to LinkedIn. And I know LinkedIn is my personal CRM. That's where I go to remember everybody I interact with. And so if we could actually, and people generally, in a professional context are keeping that data up to date. So if our constituent records could take advantage of that at NerdAIM and not having to be looking and checking and manually updating, that would be pretty exciting. So that's just an example of the possibilities out there that I think if we invest our, this core team's time in really shoring up our enterprise solution, it's going to be in a great position to scale and meet the campus demand.
So Jami, you mentioned that you were going to be preparing some materials or something for departments, because right now we're sort of in this holding pattern. We're waiting. We're eagerly waiting. I'll say that 100 times before the end of the podcast. But we're waiting to get in. What can our departments be doing right now to prepare for a move into CRM? Because I think if I went back to them today and said, "You're in," they'd say, "Now what?" So can we do the now what part first, and then we're in a better position to move in? What can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of mentioned it. One of the things that we're really working on offering to groups, and this is not quite a delighter, but I think something that will tide people over for a little bit while we work on kind of laying the foundation for us to scale, is offering a toolkit that will help give groups a little bit of guidance on what they can be doing in the meantime. Some of the steps that we will have to go through to get groups ready for them to be able to be onboarded into the system, so that they can be working on those and not waiting for them to engage with us first to give them the same information that we would offer at that point. So they can kind of do a little bit of pre-work to help make the process go a little bit smoother, a little bit quicker. So big parts of that.
So would that be in the form of I'm thinking like simple things. Would that be in the form of, here are some of the standard fields we use for biographical information, like we want your first name and your last name atomized. Here's how you handle somebody the third, and here's how you handle junior and senior. And are we talking at that level, or are there other things too? I mean, that's a big deal by itself, but
Yeah, that is absolutely one of the the big thing. So that's certainly a part of this toolkit. So we're hoping that this toolkit's really going to be all encompassing to even lay the groundwork before we get to those field level detail that we're definitely getting from groups. So I think really the first step that people can be taking is defining your vision for CRM. What do you want out of a system? What do you want out of a system? What business problems should it address? And really kind of get that alignment, and internally with your stakeholders to say, yes, this is what our need is for this. Here's what we want it to do for us. And here's how we hope to get there. So that's really kind of that first major step. And we do touch on that in the toolkit a little bit, and we're still fleshing that out a little bit more to guide people along that path to get to that point and figure out what that vision is. And you touch on it a little bit, but part of that will also be data mapping, understanding what data points you're currently tracking so that we can look at what gaps we might currently have. We obviously have a lot of basic, or not basics, we actually have a lot of detail in the CRM, but we have the ability to track, full names. What is their preferred name? If they're a Robert, but they go by Rob or by Bob, those are kind of some of those little data points that are, important to track so that you call them by their preferred first name. So definitely being able to share with groups, here's the data that we're currently tracking. Here's some of the details about that data. So then we can look at what some of those gaps will be. And those kind of come out with kind of the other big step that groups can be doing in the meantime is mapping their business processes and kind of gathering and organizing all of the data points and the ways that they're tracking their data so that we can get a clear picture of what they're doing currently and then how their systems currently are not meeting their needs, and then how we can translate that onto CRM&D to fill those needs and to fill the gaps that might be there. So understanding kind of what that current state is, and then we'll have conversations with the groups once we start engaging with them as to, okay, well, do we need to improve this process? Do we need to kind of replicate it in the system? Do we need to rethink how this process is happening? But having that pre-work a little bit of understanding what your process is, making sure that your process is somewhat settled, goes a long way in making sure that the implementation process is much smoother. It's a lot easier for us to hit a stationary target than a moving target. So if your processes are in flux while you're working with us, it will naturally cause some delays. So there is a lot of work that groups can kind of be doing to prepare. So we are working to put it together in a nice, helpful toolkit with some resources to say, here's how you do process mapping, because that's one thing that groups might not be familiar with doing. They might not have an internal resource that has ever done that before. So they want to offer some guidance on how do you do this? What questions do you need to be asking yourselves throughout this process? Kind of pulling some of that together for us. Then that way we're not spending such a long amount of time with that, because we do go through that process with groups as well. But if we can have some of that groundwork laid before we start engaging with them, it'll just make our process go that much smoother.
Excellent. So this is a great transition, because Tracy, I wanted to ask you what impacts that this initiative would have on embedded staff. But Jami, it sounds like you just opened up a door here for us, that as departments look to go through this toolkit once it becomes available, that it could really fall to a lot of our embedded consultants or a lot of our embedded teams to help them navigate that toolkit without putting that burden back on the CRM team. I mean, it seems like a nice middle ground there. But Tracy, what other ways do you think this will have an impact on embedded staff, on embedded IT staff?
Mm-hmm. I think we're still figuring that out, but I am very confident in saying that the only way we're really going to be able to scale this and achieve the broad impact that this enterprise solution can have is if our embedded IT staff are part of the strategy. Because as previously noted, we have a small and mighty team that are going to be really focused on providing, the highest impact, highest benefit to the most users possibly we can. But what's also important is that we have embedded staff that are understanding those departmental needs and priorities and concerns, and really serving as a champion and advocate for the data collection, the process improvement. I think that's really that embedded work that will really streamline everything we're doing about CRM. So I think, not quite sure how we're going to get exactly to that point. I think this toolkit toolkit that Jami mentioned is a great starting point, and I think we're going to go for it and we're going to learn together, and that will evolve over time.
A lot of our embedded staff are, also eager for this to happen. So for them to have a way to know that once this happens, they can maybe be expected or could look forward to working with the toolkit. So that's something that they could be familiarizing themselves with. Not now. I know you say the toolkit's still being built, but once it's built, that's something that could be their homework to start getting more familiar with, so that they can better help their departments when the time comes.
What is the realistic timeline before we see the system in action?
Yeah, I would really rather not answer that question. Just kidding.
Bye.
I know we've been asking people to be really patient, and I appreciate that patience and support, really. And I think, any conversation I've had with campus is completely understanding, collaborative, that patience to get to the ultimate solution. I do think is that all that foundational work I described, the toolkit preparation, the required maintenance, like my best guess at this point is we're probably a year out from being really able to scale in the way I want to be able to scale. But I do know from working at Notre Dame for 22 years that the years go very fast, so a year is not very long. We will get a lot done in that time frame, and part of the work we're doing, so we're, in addition to that foundational work and being able to scale, we're having just great results working with the Lab for Economic Opportunities that Jami mentioned. And what's so exciting about that project is that they are so metrics driven, and the results they are seeing and the impact on their ability to just actually reduce poverty in the world, that is just such a compelling reason to do this. And so I want to make sure we're giving them sufficient love. They've been a great champion and advocate, and I think the results we're able to show through the Leo project, I think, are going to get the rest of campus really being able to visualize like the possibilities around this type of solution. So that's a good investment for all of us. If we're helping Leo, I think it's a good model for other departments that really want to do this more in-depth business process platform approach to CRM, while we're also focused on what's the out of box, what's the basics of constituent management that we can get people live on more quickly. So those are our two areas of focus, along with shoring it up as an enterprise solution. And I do think that is going to take us the better part of a year. But keep in touch. We want to make sure we're aware of the needs and the priorities. And so, if we want people to not just, if there's something urgent and you want to have a conversation, I know, Jami and I are willing always to have those conversations. And so continue to reach out and keep in touch about the campus needs, because we want to definitely stay current on that as well.
Just for clarity, because I know people will ask me after the podcast goes live, does that mean no new customers for a year, or does that mean you're looking for guinea pigs to wander in? Or something in between?
We might need a guinea pig at some point. Maybe let's say we're generating a list of guinea pigs at this point, and we want to get some things done so that your experience will be the best it can be, in a reasonable time frame.
Got it.
And like any new technology, especially when you've been doing stuff a certain way for so long, and people might be using spreadsheets, like you mentioned, how do you expect to handle the training and give support to people who may not be as comfortable with what I imagine to be a very tech advanced kind of platform? And I don't even know if they have AI tools, but even with that, how would you handle the training and support?
Yeah, so obviously, support of our user groups is, of the utmost importance to us. We want to make sure that the groups that are using the platform feel supported, that they're getting the most value out of the platform that we have. So that's definitely one of our core pillars of what we're offering to to our groups that we're working with. So we are looking at how we can kind of revamp like training and support for the current system. So we do already do pretty in-depth training with our user groups when they're coming in, especially based on, if it's a full business process. There's obviously a lot of, I don't want to say hand-holding, but there is a lot of engagement that we have with our groups for those processes. But as we are looking to scale, what are some opportunities that we have to kind of streamline that process a little bit more? Could we put together some virtual trainings that we can have groups start getting introduced to the system? Because I will say Salesforce can be a little intimidating when you first log into it. There is a lot of information there. There's a lot of ways to get around. And it can be hard to orient yourself in a system like that if you've never experienced it before. I even felt that when I first logged into Salesforce back in April of 2018. And that's a consistent thread and piece of feedback that I've gotten throughout my entire career as a Salesforce administrator. Is it's just scary. It's overwhelming. What can we do to make that a little less so? So we are looking at different options that we could have about establishing some sort of virtual training program so that we can kind of get that introduction out of the way, so that when I engage with them or other team members engage with them, we can really dig into their business processes and they already have that context, so it's not so overwhelming and so scary when they get in there. So we're looking at different options with that, but also we've already kind of mentioned our embedded IT staff, but even not just the embedded IT staff, but other resources that we might have within our different user groups. So I typically identify what we call functional leads within our different departments that we're working with, and they kind of become that point of contact or that point person for Salesforce within their group. And they've been really great partners for us over the years, but what else can we be doing with them for them to act in that kind of tier 1 level support for our groups, so that they kind of feel comfortable enough to be that internal resource, and then anything else kind of escalates to us so that we can really focus on those bigger, more in-depth questions and support cases that people might have. So we do a lot of collaboration with our different groups across campus and ways to do that, but what else can we be doing, and what permissions can we kind of give to them to empower them a little bit more to be more of that internal support, so that we can focus not only on kind of the bigger questions that are coming up, but also on scaling and on bringing on our other different user groups that want to be joining this system. On top of that as well, we've already kind of mentioned it, we're really looking at some different options that we have when it comes to working with outside partners that might be able to support an implementation or provide a little bit more support for us. So we're kind of looking at like all different options that we have right now, so that I'm not the only resource that people have to go to on campus, because obviously there's a lot of questions, a lot of interest on campus for people that want to come on. So we're putting basically everything on the table at this point, and looking at what we can do to really foster that, feeling of, hey, we feel very supported, we feel listened to, and groups thankfully feel that so far. But how can we further improve that? Because we don't just want to kind of, do base level support for groups at this point.
Yeah. And besides jumping onto our podcast, how are you leveraging communications and marketing to further foster that awareness and readiness and let people know what you're doing?
This is the entire marketing budget. Don't tell us that.
This is an excellent step 1 in our communications and marketing strategy, which we are definitely forming. And we have a great communications and marketing team in OIT, and we're going to definitely leverage their talent and expertise in this. But we also, fortunately, have some great examples in higher ed peers that have been really successful with this, and not too far away. I always tell people to Google IU CRM, and they have an awesome website. They have an awesome onboarding approach. They really articulate it in a way that helps people understand the value proposition, how it's going to streamline their day-to-day work and really, maximize the impact we can have with constrained resources, which is really extra important right now. And Purdue has been another great peer that's really helped us understand how, from a strategic staffing perspective, how to scale this, how to bring other groups in together that might be doing things independently. So I think we have some great examples and expertise out there to help us. We are, exploring the idea of rebranding. So we'll put this out there into the podcast listener space that, CRM, we spend a lot of time explaining what is CRM. And, CRM has been ND has been great. It's served us well. But is there a way we could refer to this that actually helps people understand what the impact and value is? So definitely open to ideas from the audience if you have any of those. And we also have a community of practice that's up and running, and Jami leads this. And this is something that I think from a just to stay engaged and stay plugged into what's going on and what the current update is, that's another great way people can get
And tell
involved.
us a little more about the community practice. When do you meet? How does someone join? What's that about?
Yeah, so we are working on kind of establishing a better process for that right now. So right now, I believe it's every third Wednesday of the month and forgive me, I'm based out of Wisconsin, so my time zone is an hour different. I think it is at 11 a.m. Eastern, if I remember correctly. So trying to do the conversion in my head. But we are going to be working on getting that on the OIT website so that people can know that it's out there. It's kind of just a well-kept secret with our existing user groups, but we do have the floor open, and we do have an open platform that we are open to groups who aren't on CRM&D yet, but want to kind of hear what we're talking about. What things are we working on? What are some of the questions that our current user groups are facing that we're working through them with? What projects are we currently working on? Because those are some of the things that we're sharing. So one of the other things that we're doing, and Ryan Willerton from the Center for Career Development, have to give all the kudos to him for the idea. One of his pieces of feedback with these that, how can we provide more value through this community of practice is having our user groups do showcases of how they're using CRM&D so that other groups can see, hey, I'm not taking advantage of that feature, but I want to. What do I need to do to get there? So that's definitely a really good way for groups who might be interested in the platform to kind of log in to the call, see how other groups are using it, and start getting their own ideas about what the system could really do for them. So at this point, until we get it up on the website, people can just reach out to me and let me know that they'd like to get an invite to that, and I'm more than happy to add them to those meetings. We do record them as well, so if people aren't able to make that time slot, we do make that recording available to our attendees as well, so they can go back and watch it later on as well.
Okay, it's time for Consultant Quirks, where we ask our guests a few fun rapid fire questions. We could start with Tracy. And for context, Tracy and Jami
Oh, yes,
chose
that
each
was a good
other's
part of this.
questions, which we thought was pretty cool. Yeah. So Jami wants to know about Tracy. What is one thing on your bucket list?
I would really like to get to Hawaii at some point. I've heard it's like actually paradise, and I feel like I need to experience that in my life. So that is my goal. I have not made it there yet, but hopefully in the next few years, I will have a trip to Hawaii.
Yeah. That could be your reward after all of
You
this.
should put a bug in Jane's
Sounds
ear
great.
that EDUCAUSE should be out in Hawaii sometime soon, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She is
Just
on the board.
record.
So.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we survived the
right.
first year of enterprise CRM.
Right.
And Jami, what is one thing on your bucket list?
Yeah, so I'm a nerd. I have like just this random wealth of knowledge that serves no purpose other than being on Jeopardy one day. So that's kind of my goal, is to eventually apply
Excellent.
and hopefully get on Jeopardy one day.
Nice. Tracy, if you weren't in IT, what job would you have?
So I don't know how successful I would be at this job, but I am super interested in real estate. And even though I don't buy houses very often, in fact, I don't buy houses often at all. I like to look at all the houses, and I am that neighbor that will just show up to the open house just to see the house. And I always have tabs on what's for sale and how much it's going for and what it's sold for. So it's a hobby I have, but I wonder how I would be at actually selling houses, or if I would just like to look at them all. So we'll never know.
That's a fun one.
Jami, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
Yeah, so I feel awful because I know, Tracy, you were looking for new TV show ideas, and like the last thing that we binge watched was getting ready for Stranger Things, like the final season to be coming on soon. So we just finished binge watching the first 4 seasons of that. And then the only other thing that I'm currently watching right now, it's kind of like my husband's show, but there's a cartoon called The Regular Show. So I don't know if anyone's seen that. super, super fun little cartoon, lots of pop culture references, so kind of right down our alley. But we're probably on the eighth rewatch of that show at this point. So other than that, I do a lot of movies, so not a lot of TV that we binge watch besides those. Sorry, Tracy.
That's okay. I don't watch many shows, so I have not seen either of those. So now they are on my list. So we're good.
Oh, wow.
Well, and Stranger Things, I think they start airing over the holidays, so you'll have plenty of time over winter break to watch it, and then you can just watch it all at once. Don't have to wait for. I think they've been working on this show for probably 6 or 7 years at this point, so all at once. There you go.
Great. I have a plan.
Tracy, if you could have dinner with any person, real or fictional, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Okay, so don't judge me.
Okay.
But I would pick Martha Stewart because
Okay.
I'm a big fan of hers. I think I love her confidence. I love her resilience. She's been through a lot in her life. She actually literally went to jail and then, has been very successful after that and now has a sneaker commercial that I just saw on television. And she cooks delicious food. So I think that would be not only a delicious meal, but a really interesting conversation with someone that I just admire her creativity, her ability to, be sort of one of the original influencers and just generate like a lifetime of business opportunities for herself. So I would enjoy that conversation.
And where would you have this dinner?
Oh, definitely at her house, like somewhere. I don't even know exactly where she lives, like in Maine or
You don't
Martha
have a tag
Stewart.
with the value
Yeah.
and where.
One of her lovely, nice houses would be great.
Nice. Okay, Jamie, last one. If you weren't in IT, what job would you have?
Yeah, so I am like a huge dog person. So I would absolutely do something either doing like a dog rescue or like a dog boarding facility, because I'm very picky when it comes to boarding facilities for my dog. So I know that there are people out there with high standards like me, and I can help support that. So anything that would let me work with dogs, though, would be like my absolute dream goal if money was no issue, which just is not the case right now. So.
Yeah, you have a very big project on your
Yeah.
hands.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good
And a
because I
fun
don't
one.
think
I
Tracy would
enjoy
let
it.
you go
Yeah.
anywhere.
If we incorporate dogs somehow to CRM.
Although I like dogs a lot too. So
Yeah.
if Jamie does that, I'll just
Oh, you're
I'll
gonna
just go
make
with
us
her and
all
we'll do that
panic.
together.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll work
Oh,
on the business
man.
plan, Tracy.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a little bit more fun here and continue with the Did You Know Tech Edition. I know it's your favorite, Deanna and
Absolutely.
Scooter, but as a recap for our guests, this is the point where I can quiz our host and our guest alike to find out who is tech savvy or might need a little bit more screen time. And just to update everybody on the scores, currently right now, Scooter's sitting at 5 points, but our guests are right behind him at 4 points, so creeping up on him. And Deanna's kind of in third place at the moment with 2 points. But to be fair, some of these questions recently have been a little bit more difficult for her. So we'll see if
Thank
we
you.
level
Thank
the
you for
playing field
acknowledging
this
that.
time.
Well, and she's got a point on the
we talked
guest
a lot
board
about-
too, right? So there is that.
She does have a point
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
guest boards as well, so maybe we can give her 3, but that still puts her in third place. So
I think it
I'm
would help
expecting-
if I were alive for some of these questions.
Yeah, that's what I
Haven't
said. A
been
little bit
That's
of
around very
right.
disadvantage.
Call everybody else on the call old. That's your key to winning. Okay.
But Tracy,
I
what
didn't
I'm
say
hearing,
that.
this is our opportunity to like tie up with Scooter for the guests. So
Yeah, pressure's on for me now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I missed the last
All right,
two.
so we've talked a lot about CRM. We talked a lot about Salesforce. So this question, Jamie might have the biggest advantage to because it is a Salesforce
no.
question. But
oh, no pressure though.
when Salesforce launched in 1999, what bold original slogan did they use?
Oh,
Was it A, no more spreadsheets? Was it B, run your business in the cloud? Was it C, no software? Or was it D, customer first, always? And feel free to go around the room and lock in your answers.
I kind of think Jamie should go last.
Okay.
No, have her go first.
Do you know, Tracy?
Well, I feel like the last one was more slogan-y. What was it? Customers first.
Customer first, always.
So it sounds like it should be a corporate slogan, but the no more spreadsheets is resonating with me. So I'm gonna pick that. Like I actually don't know, so I'm just going with no more spreadsheets. 'Cause I
I'm
like
going to
that.
go with that too, because I kind of feel like I heard somebody saying that as an ad way back when, but I never would have guessed it was Salesforce. But so it's probably a red herring that
All right.
Andy's thrown in. Yeah, but I'll do it.
All right, 2 locked in for no more spreadsheets. Deanna?
I think I'm gonna go with that too, because they were probably maybe even more frustrated with spreadsheets and really needed a solution.
Okay. And then finally, Jami?
So I don't know if this is going to bite me or not, but I'm going to break the mold here a little bit. I'm going to go with D. Like I'm not super brushed up on my Salesforce lore from back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but for some reason that one's resonating with me. And I guess I'm also biased because Salesforce, I always just say it's a really pretty version of Excel and spreadsheets. So like still spreadsheets to me. So we'll see. D sounds familiar to me, but to Scooter's point, I might have just heard it somewhere, and it's definitely not a Salesforce thing. So we'll see.
All right.
Okay. So for clarity, you're going with customer first, always, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So correct answer for what was Salesforce's bold original slogan when launched in 1999 is actually C, no software. All of
Oh.
it was done in the cloud. You didn't need
Dang.
to run any of the local hardware or software applications or anything of that nature.
Ouch.
Yeah. But
I
all
swear
of
I know what
them-
I'm doing when it comes to Salesforce. I'm just not familiar with their slogans.
So that's one more bit of trivia for Jeopardy
all of
now,
them
right?
play.
Because that'll be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that will stick with me forever now. So
There you go. So Scooter, you
Woohoo!
maintained your lead. No points awarded for anybody in this
sorry,
particular
future
round.
guests. It's on you now.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Jami. It's been a pleasure chatting with both of you.
If you've got someone you'd like us to interview, just email those ideas to btspodcast@nd.edu. If there's anything else new, exciting, frustrating, or inspiring happening in your IT consultancy world, please share that with us too. We'd love to hear your insights and ideas.
Next time, we'll speak with Clint Brown, IT Solutions Specialist in Enhanced Technology Partnerships, serving the investment office. Until then, thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Signing off from behind the screens, IT at ND.
Stay tech savvy, Notre Dame.
One, two, three, four.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Jake. We got
We got
bloopers.
bloopers.
Tramy and JC. That's what was going to come out. That was not going to be it.